They forced the car down here. The guys came from both sides, smashed the windscreen, smashed the side window shutters. They reached in, got him here, and Lasantha fell that way.
So mid-morning in broad daylight, right outside a school.
It was with absolute confidence that they would not be caught.
How do you feel when you come to this place?
It's as if that Lasantha is here. As if he says, yeah, I'm with you.
Lal continues his involvement in the paper his brother edited, but alongside the day job is a continuing fight for justice.
Lal, have you any idea who was responsible for the murder of your brother?
I do. Well, the people out on the streets instinctively know, and so do I. And if there is no concrete evidence which is presented in a court of law, we feel it was during the watch of Namal Rajapaksa's government that Lasantha was killed.
Are you basically saying that there has been no justice, therefore the government was probably to blame?
Yes.
Against the odds, the paper continues to operate. In February this year, one of its reporters was shot and injured. And with advertising revenue sliding, Lal has had to sell 72% of the paper to a businessman close to the government.
How do you personally feel? I mean, how vulnerable do you feel?
Everybody feels vulnerable. It's now a way of life. But as far as I am concerned, I think that kind of thing cannot last forever.
Are you able to sleep at night?
Most days, yes, because some of those, what you can do is to take the necessary precautions, but the rest is in somebody else's hands. You know, for example, when Lasantha was killed, and even when Lasantha was first assaulted, he said these people don't know, they're just carrying out orders. If somebody out there has that much of power and wants to get you, they will get you, no end. But that doesn't mean you have to stop what you believe in.
Meeting someone like Lal here, you're really struck by what it is to dissent in Sri Lanka. There is argument on the editorial pages, there are plenty of columns critical of the government, but if you really delve below the surface, you're putting your life potentially at risk. Take Lal. The murder of his brother Lasantha remains completely unsolved. The paper has continued to come under attack. Now Lal is a very resilient man, but it seems there's less and less room for people like him in Sri Lanka.
In my own time as a journalist here, I've been freer than most to ask difficult questions, but not necessarily any more successful in getting answers. Sri Lanka's governing Rajapaksa family, from the president to the three of his brothers who also hold high office here, meet claims of disappearances or civilian deaths or the murder of journalists with a mixture of denial and apparent indifference. Now I'm hoping I may get somewhere with the man many people see as a future leader of this country. Namal Rajapaksa, the president's 27-year-old son, has been given a special role overseeing reconstruction in the most war-ravaged parts of the north.
I believe we're heading for a village where people are going to be returning to their roots, to the places that they were displaced from a long time ago. What are we going to see exactly?
Well, I mean, this is a village where we have resettled them recently, and also the government has contributed to reconstruct their housing.
As the convoy rolls into the village, large crowds greet Namal Rajapaksa. While many are too young to remember the war, the apparently warm welcome he receives in the heart of what was enemy territory only 4 years ago is striking.
Thank you.
The president's son and his advisers are clearly keen to show us, the BBC, the positive work being done in the north. But when the fanfare of his visit dies down, I get a chance to speak to him about things which his relatives in the government are less comfortable talking about.
Yesterday I spent some time with a woman who lost 4 close members of her family when their home was shelled in February 2009. What can you say to the tens of thousands like her?
I mean, there are tens of thousands like her, not only in the north. There are people in the south as well. What about the bombing for schools? What about LTT bombing the World Bank? What about LTT bombing the religious places in the south as well? We actually don't know who actually fired the shell, whether it's LTT or whether it's the government.
Well, to be honest, I think it was probably the government. The majority of deaths, civilian deaths, were probably caused by the government side.
Well, that's what the people who were not in the north says at that time. But actually, if you talk to the people, there are two sides for the story.
The difference seems to be that in the north, the depth of civilian despair and trauma is somehow not acknowledged by your government. Isn't that the case?
No, I don't think so. I don't believe in that.
I've also been meeting the wife of a man who disappeared. How can that kind of thing be happening in Sri Lanka today?
Well, I mean, see, if there's a complaint in the police, I'm sure the police will do the investigation.
Do you want to preside over a country where people are disappeared in peacetime?
Well,
personally, do you really want that?
No, not only me, no one wants that. No one wants to see people disappearing.
The murder of Lal Wickrematunge, one of the most prominent journalists, indeed a newspaper editor, was shot in broad daylight in Colombo. Is that the kind of Sri Lanka you want to be a part of in future?
I'm not quite aware of, I'm not familiarized with the case or for the facts to give you in details. But what I do know is that it is in the courts. Those kind of incidents are not accepted, not only by me, but the rest of Sri Lanka doesn't accept that.
You can see from the way that he mingles with the local people that Namal Rajapaksa is very much a friendly face of the Sri Lankan government, but I'm not sure that what he had to say to me would carry very much comfort for the other people I've spoken to in this film about their, in many cases, terrible problems. Really, the line that the young Mr. Rajapaksa is giving is very much the same as the line given by the government headed by his father.
Despite the anguish of many in post-war Sri Lanka, some people are trying to heal wounds.